When it comes to Alex Ovechkin, less is more.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holney. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Caps Minute Cast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals playing a 60-minute game, or darn near a 60-minute game. Now, you might think to yourself, Dan, aren't all hockey games 60-minute games? And I'm going to answer that question. If you watch or listen to this show, or you watch Capitals games, you know that the Capitals oftentimes play a good 20 minutes, a good 40 minutes. But what we've seen from the Capitals, at least in the last game, was darn near a 60-minute game. What's behind that? A bit later, I'll talk about Spencer Carbery, huge in the Capitals' success. There was a lot of worry after game one of the second round here, where the Capitals dropped the first game at home against Carolina. Questions and a lot of concerns around the Capitals about, is this team going to fan out? Spencer Carbery, not afraid of making changes like he did all season long, mixed it up. And what makes him so important in the Capitals' success is he's not to do just that, mix things up. And then later we'll talk about less is more with Alex Ovechkin. But when we get into it here, the Caps picked up a big Game 2 win over the Canes, tied the series, and honestly, we're seeing a bit of a different version of this team. And it's the vibes around this team are good now. And it's interesting, like I said in yesterday's show, that a big win, a win off a really kind of bad loss, I'm going to say, kind of makes you forget about everything that happened in game number 1. Carbery's coaching his butt off, and the defense is quietly doing some good work. So let's get into it here. We're going to talk about getting going here around Alex Ovechkin and how less is more. And what I mean when I say less is more with Alex Ovechkin is that he is playing the least amount of ice time in the playoffs here than he has in his entire career. And I think what is apparent with Alex Ovechkin and Spencer Carbery and the coaching staff, that he is 39 years old. We all know that he plays better in more of a limited capacity, at least in the tail end of games. So let's start with the big guy, Alex Ovechkin. And I know a lot of you noticed he's playing a lot less in these playoffs, at least at the tail end of games. We're used to seeing Ovi out there all game long, blasting those one-timers and doing that whole carry the team thing. And I think what we saw last night in game number 2 was Tom Wilson carrying the team. That, Tom Wilson, many people, myself included, believe he is the next captain of this team, doing that whole carry the team thing. But through 7 games, he's averaging around 16 minutes a night. That's actually the lowest playoff ice time of his career. And here's the wild part about all of it is he's not out there at the end of games. And I think it's a game-by-game basis, but when I think the games are close, I think it's a fair thing to say that defensively, Alex Ovechkin is not the best defender out on the ice. I know that Spencer Carbery didn't say that. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think they want the guys that are going to give them the best chance at winning, even if that means it's not Alex Ovechkin. So when the other team pulls their goalie, Ovi's on the bench. He hasn't played a single second during any of the Caps 4 non-OT wins with the goalie pulled. Now, before anyone freaks out, this isn't about him being washed or anything. He's still producing. He's got 4 goals, tied the team lead. But when he's on the ice, Carbery's using him in more specific spots, most offensive zone starts. So I think it's about having Alex Ovechkin out there at the right time. And it's kind of a strange thing to say, as it seemed like any time to have Alex Ovechkin out on the ice is a good time. I think that they're understanding that they get the most out of the great eight when he is not playing as many minutes as he did in his younger day. And you take a look at it, he and Strome haven't had a single D-zone start 5-on-5. That's a pretty crazy stat. And, it should come as no surprise that, you are going to see a bit of a dip in production the older you get. But with that said, like I said, I'm not saying he's washed. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I am saying, however, is that the numbers point to more of limited time on ice. You get more out of Ovechkin. He did the whole catching and passing Wayne Gretzky thing and put up a lot of goals this season. So I'm not here to diminish what Ovi does. Ovi might not be the guy closing games anymore, but he's still starting them strong. And that's important. If Ovi can get the Capitals on the board early in the game, that's huge. So if they, at the end of the game, and the numbers point to that he's maybe not the best guy out on the ice, then so be it. But like I said, you got to take a look at this season that he has been out on the ice when in big situations when maybe he got the game-winning goal. I just think that the tactic has changed in the playoffs. And I think that Alex Ovechkin has played hockey long enough to understand the lay of the land that, hey, this is playoff hockey. And if we don't do it the right way, it's going to come to a grinding halt in a hurry. Everything that the Capitals have built this season will come to a grinding halt. So if that means Alex Ovechkin playing less minutes, if that means that Alex Ovechkin isn't necessarily playing at the end of games, then so be it. They want the best players out on the ice, like I said, to get them a win. Carbery's thinking, how do I get the best out of him without overusing him, unquote. And it's working. He's also got 22 hits, still throwing the body, still being physical, just, in smaller bursts. And that's a good thing. Like we saw in the second period of game number one, is him throwing his body around is what led to some opportunities that, if that's what he has to lean into, so be it. But it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about Alex Ovechkin in kind of more of a limited role, as he has been the heartbeat of this team, well, pretty much since he joined the league, that he has been that important. But I think that, just taking a look at the numbers, that's what they point to. And the one thing that you don't want to have is an Alex Ovechkin that isn't totally checked in. And I guess what I'm thinking of is last season, in the playoffs in round number one, Alex Ovechkin appeared to be a bit disinterested. Or even in game one against Carolina, he didn't seem like he was totally in it. I think that he was maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the situation. That it's interesting. I mean, Ovechkin, he's fully aware that he has whatever's remaining in the playoff run here and next season under contract. And then ultimately, we don't know. He could very well decide to go out to Russia or just hang it up altogether. I guess we don't know. But I think that Ovechkin understands that, if in fact I want to win another Stanley Cup while I'm here, I'm going to have to do whatever it takes. And if that means playing some more limited ice time, then so be it. What we know for sure is that Alex Ovechkin is still the heartbeat of this team. And if there's any success on this team, you got to know that he has quite a bit to do with that. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Spencer Carbery huge in the Capitals' success. There have not been a lot of downs this season, but if this team has ever fallen short, the one thing I know for certain is that Spencer Carbery is not going to be afraid to mix it up. Why is he so important to this team? I'll discuss straight ahead. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services. like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How do you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Now, if you are involved in the hiring, the firing, you know it can be frustrating trying to get people onboarded and paper applications. It can get so crazy. Take the guesswork and the craziness out of all of that with Indeed. Now you can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So next, talking Spencer Carbery, the head coach of the Capitals, that in a large way put the Capitals where they're at right now. And I don't think that head coaches oftentimes get the credit that they deserve. That, hey, they're just a coach. The players are the one playing the game. Yeah, why don't you tell that to the teams that aren't playing very well? And then they change their head coach and wow, they're winning. Head coaches are very important. And Spencer Carbery is the guy, the mastermind, the guy pushing the buttons, pulling the strings for the Capitals. How and why is he huge in the Capitals' success? So, okay, Spencer Carbery, man, I got to say he's been super sharp this postseason. In general, he's really leaned into matchups and deployments, just making sure everyone's shift has a purpose. And I think part of that is knowing his players really well, right? I think that he has a history with some of them in Hershey, some of them playing in Carolina. For game 2, he made kind of a bold move. He scratched Ryan Leonard and put Taylor Raddysh in. And that had to be a hard thing for Spencer Carbery to do, as there was a lot of hype surrounding Ryan Leonard, a guy that put up 30 goals back-to-back seasons for Boston College, that all we need is Ryan Leonard and it's going to be goal-scoring fuel. Yeah, not so much. He had one empty net goal since joining the Capitals. And with Taylor Raddysh, I think the familiarity of what put the Capitals in the position that they're in right now was huge. A tough move for a head coach to make, as Ryan Leonard is perceived to be one of the big pieces in the future, but those are the tough decisions that head coaches have to make. I know a lot of people were like, wait, what? But it wasn't about Leonard playing poorly. Carbery just wanted a different look for the third line. That's what Spencer Carbery said, right? I think that to be clear here, I don't think that Ryan Leonard played poor. He just didn't make the most of his opportunities. Those 2 breakaways that I'm talking about where he didn't convert. And some people are like, well, yeah, Freddie Anderson's good. Yep, that's right. But the really good goal scorers find a way to get it done. Is it all over for Ryan Leonard? No, just not right now. That's the big thing. Carbery just wanted that different look on the third line. And I think that we got that. And you saw better production, I guess I got to say. But then the line barely played. Lars Eller played at just over 9 minutes, lowest on the team. Now, I'm going to be clear here. I don't see Lars Eller coming back next season. And Lars Eller is a solid player, to quote Spencer Carbery, but he isn't the Lars Eller from 2018, I guess we'll say. That I think that, he's doing what he can do with the tools that he has in his tool set. And for Lars Eller, I think that he is a proven player, that he has played on the big stage in big impact situations. I think that's why he's in there. So Carbery's clearly saying, quote, look, when you've got a lead late in the game, I'm tightening it up, unquote. And I think that kind of ties in with the first segment, when you don't see Alex Ovechkin on the ice late in games, that he's not playing some of his best hockey. at the tail end of games. He's riding the shutdown guys, Wilson, Dow, Protas, Dubois, and McMichael. Those are the guys that get it done. It's not, what do they say about show business? It's called show business. It's not show happy. I want the absolute best players out on the ice that are going to give the Capitals the best chance of winning, period. I don't care who it is. The people he trusts to close things out. Like I said, Wilson, Dowd, Protas, Dubois, and McMichael. And that's just smart. Putting your aces in your places, not familiarity. Like Alex Ovechkin has done this for so many years. We got to have him out on the ice. Go with the proven players that can shut down the opponent. And that's playoff hockey. It's all about details and managing the clock. And, like I say, it was a stumble in game number 1 of the second round, but the Capitals found a way to win game number 2. But for the record, Carbery made sure to say Leonard's not in the doghouse. The third line has been solid all playoffs. So this isn't about a benching. It's more like, hey, be ready. Your time's coming. That's the thing. How long will Taylor Raddysh get a look in the lineup? And is there a chance that Ryan Leonard returns to the lineup? If I'm the head coach right now, I don't think that now is the time. There's no time for trying things out, if you will. That if you're going to try things out, maybe do that in camp in the fall or maybe during the regular season, earlier in the season. But putting Ryan Leonard in there, Spencer Carbery is not going to show the tough love that I'm going to show you. Ryan Leonard is a great player. No one can take that from him. He's just not ready right now. And that's okay. He's still a young guy. I think that next year, if he continues to work on it, we've seen what he's done at Boston College, the international stage. He is that guy. He's just not the guy right now for the Capitals. So that's some tough love, even though Spencer Carbery had to kind of polish that one up a little bit, not to hurt anyone's feelings. But that's ultimately what makes Spencer Carbery a great coach, using tactful words when I won't to players to kind of make them understand his vision that, you're a good player, but maybe not in this position. If he can have that conversation with Alex Ovechkin or someone like Ryan Leonard, I think that those are some of the things that make Spencer Carbery truly a great coach. So those are the things to look at. Spencer Carbery going into this, as we are making our way through the second round, we got another game coming up on Saturday night that, even though the Capitals did find a way to win game number 2, he's not done making changes. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of tweaking we see with the line combos and the D pairings. Maybe there won't be any changes. Maybe he'll stick to don't try to fix something that isn't broke. But that's the one thing that I know for sure. If the Capitals are successful, I'm not trying to diminish what the players do, but it's Spencer Carbery, his hockey mind in just understanding how to get the most out of his players, deploying the right players at the right time, in large part has put the Capitals exactly where they're at right now. And I'm here to tell him, if Spencer Carbery is in front of me, I would tell him that, because oftentimes head coaches, they don't get that credit. It's the players out on the ice, the marquee names, the Ovechkin, the Wilson, those kind of guys. But make no mistake about it, Spencer Carbery is absolutely huge in the Capitals' success. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the Capitals playing a 60-minute game. Was that really the case? I'll discuss straight ahead. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-time winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play and smart and win big. Now, listen, our team isn't in it. The Wizards are not in the playoffs, but if you want to have vested interest in the NBA playoffs, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, those games got that much more exciting. Are you new to FanDuel? Now is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. So did the Capitals play a 60-minute game in game number 2? It's an interesting question. It was darn near a perfect game, in my opinion. There was some, glitches here and there, but I don't think you're ever going to have a perfect game. I don't think a perfect game exists, does it? I think that if you take a look at any games, there's a coughed up puck here or there. But what did we see from the Capitals in game number 2? A full 60-minute effort. The Caps win 3-1. They tie the series. And it was a team fully vested in success. It was Tom Wilson laying out in front of the puck. Not just Tom Wilson, but Tom Wilson and a lot of the other players laying out there, kind of Dale Hunter-esque hockey, if you will, and doing what they had to do to make sure that they won game number 2 at home. And they just look like a more confident group. Connor McMichael opened the scoring, beautiful breakaway goal. And the thing about McMichael has been so good all playoffs. Sneaky quick, high hockey IQ, knows where to be. And when it comes to Connor McMichael, coaches from before, Peter Laviolette didn't really want to go with Connor McMichael. Spencer Carbery, to kind of dovetail with what we were talking about in the second segment there, the guy that was able to realize the potential of Connor McMichael. Now, it wasn't just that. I mean, you take a look at having Pierre-Luc Dubois playing on that second line, but Connor McMichael, not to diminish what he has done, has really grown by leaps and bounds, not just in this season, but in the playoffs in general. This kid's been so good all playoffs long. They had chances in the second. Pavillier had a good one. Ovi had a couple, but they just couldn't finish. And I was sitting there thinking, man, I hope they don't regret those. But early third, boom, Carlson on the power play. And Carlson has been one of the guys that I get quite a bit of comments on Twitter and YouTube about what's going on with Carlson. Carlson absolutely clutch, scoring that power play goal. Huge blast from the point, assist to Tom Wilson, and also got the empty netter. Now, that was his first of the playoffs, and you could tell that one felt good. I think it was getting a lot of stress off his back. Carolina made it a little sketchy. Gostisbehere scored to make it 2-1, but the Caps didn't panic. They stayed in their structure. Absolutely huge. That you saw fight or flight in game number 1 for sure, that they stuck to the script. They kept their heads buttoned up, dialed in really tight, and they didn't let the outside noise in. They just went out there and executed the plays. Logan Thompson, man, rock solid again, sitting at a .931 save percentage. That's elite. Let's be clear here that, say the Capitals didn't acquire Logan Thompson last summer, I really don't think the Capitals would be in the position that they're in right now. And not to diminish what Charlie Lindgren is, but elite level netminding is what Logan Thompson encompasses. Carolina pulls the goalie, and again, no Ovi, no chaos, just Wilson and the shutdown crew handling business. It's not flashy, but it's working. So I don't think, like I said, you're ever going to have a full 60-minute game. I think that, if you're going to paint it with a broad brush, you can say that the team played well for 60 minutes, but there's always going to be hiccups here and there. But what I'm going to say, from what we have seen, at least in the playoffs, that this was darn near as close as you're going to get to a 60-minute game than we've seen thus far. That this team dug deep to get in the win column, as it is difficult playing the Carolina Hurricanes as they pour it on, but the Capitals did not get overwhelmed by the situation. And I think that those kind of traits are the hallmarks of what makes a great hockey team. Make no mistake about it. That is due in large part to where the Capitals are at right now, is that, you take a look at the Capitals from years before when they got overwhelmed, it all fell apart. And we've seen glimpses of that this regular season, if you will, and in the first game of the second round here. But the Capitals, by and large, this season have not fallen into the traps that we've seen in previous seasons, where, say, the other team gets a goal lead or two, or, in Carolina's case, just absolutely peppering the netminder with shots from all over the place. And Carolina just does a really good job controlling the puck. They dictate the pace of the game. the Capitals found a way to find a weakness in their armor, and ultimately is what got them to win game number 2, something that was unthinkable. Because like I said, after that, the game 1 loss, there was a lot of questions about, is this team really as good as we saw all season long? The series is all tied up right now, folks. And the next game is going to be on Saturday. I'm hoping for more of what we saw in game number 2, maybe even more dialed in. The one thing that I know for absolute certain is that it's not going to be easy against Carolina. If the Capitals can, in fact, win this series, I see it going to 7. It's not going to be an easy thing. It goes to Lenovo Center right now in Carolina, where they are going to have the advantage of their home fans playing in front of all their fans. So if they score a goal, it's going to get loud. But the one thing that the Capitals have done is, and they've grown a lot in the playoffs, playing at Bell Center in the first round of the playoffs, is they found a way to shut down the outside noise, that they don't get overwhelmed by the situation as much. I think they did in game number 1, but game 2 was a return to form, and they needed a leader. Tom Wilson was that leader. When the team wasn't getting it done, he is just that alpha personality that the Capitals were looking for, that led by example. And to talk about Wilson here for a moment here, he shrugs, any of the accolades. He said simply it was a team win. But if he doesn't want to take the compliment, at least one thing you could say about the Capitals and Tom Wilson is that he led by example. I think that he has the attention of the younger players, and ultimately that's what the Capitals need, is a guy to be a leader. Alex Ovechkin, the captain of the team, a bit more of a diminished role as far as minutes are concerned, that we are seeing the leaders on the team step up. John Carlson, Tom Wilson, these kind of guys, those are the players that you're going to need to have out on the ice, so that give you the best chance at winning each and every night. As I'm done recording this, and I'm already mentally preparing for game number 3 on Saturday, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling optimistic about this team from what I saw in game number 2, but knowing that the demons of game number 1 are still somewhere in the closet. Keep the door shut. Don't let them out. I think that if the Capitals stick to the script, I think everything will be well. It's what put him in this position. The one thing I know about the Capitals, as they have defied odds all season long, the Capitals, their best chance at winning the series and game by game is playing that 60-minute game. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week, available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.